Hello everyone, I'm Brian. Today I'm reacting to Is sorrow a problem of the mind or an absence of bliss? Sorrow, a Vedantic view. Huh. Is sorrow a problem of the mind or an absence of... Why not both? I mean, obviously it would... Well, never mind, hold on. I was thinking of absence of enlightenment there. Yeah, I mean, they do say bliss... Anyways. Sorrow a problem of the mind, yes. And the absence of bliss, absolutely. Both. Because if you're bliss, you're not going to have sorrow. Even, well, I guess the mind will always have it in the mind. Because this is the thing that I've kind of learned. Something that I look at. Wow, I can't think of his name anymore. Hold on, I'm gonna pause. I can't believe I can't think of his name. I haven't said his name in a little bit. Okay, so it just took like a second. Swami Vivekananda. The thing I remember about him was the fact that, which was surprising for me, but as people explained this, but I still, how do I say, still don't understand why. I guess that might be the real thing. So even though I think a lot of people considered him to be enlightened, and I don't know if he considers himself enlightened, I don't know that. Now I know a lot of people do, but he still cries and mourns. He still feels the emotions. Then the example that Swami here gives with Swami Sri Ramakrishna is the fact that he talks about the joke about the doctor seeing him, the doctor's asking if he's okay, and he's saying, "Oh, I'm fine." And then the doctor's like, "Oh, your throat." It's like, "Oh yeah, you got me. You found me out. The throat cancer." So obviously there is in a sense, perhaps a disconnect between the your true self and the mind, the ego, and all of that. So, and this is the thing that I guess I won't say I've learned, but I understand that even if you are enlightened, as far as I understand, you still can suffer, but not the true. Your true self never suffers, regardless. But your body, your ego, still suffers, which is the thing that is kind of always, I won't say always, but it's the thing that always kind of the thing that confuses me. Not always, but it's confused me. It's like, how are you enlightened, but yet you still suffer? And I guess to me, I guess to me, it's like, what's the point if the body still suffer, the ego still suffer? If you feel that you're still suffering, your true self, that doesn't matter. You know why? Because in my mind, because it doesn't suffer. It is never suffering. It's always in bliss. So you don't have to worry about that. It's kind of like my left hand not on fire, right hand on fire. I have to worry about putting out the right hand, kind of deal. I hope the example makes sense. But I guess for in terms of them, it's complicated. I think I can go on for a couple of minutes with this. I don't want to talk too much about it, but I understand the fact that perhaps maybe when you get to a certain point of bliss, that you can recognize the suffering of your ego and your mind and your body, and allow it to, but also at the same time, perhaps that you get to a point where you are enlightened or blissed out, that you don't suffer anymore. And that's the state that I want to be in, where even if something sorrowful happens, I don't necessarily want even my mind and my ego to suffer, because that's the thing that we recognize. At least most of us recognize. The mind, the true self may never suffer, but then I don't have to worry about that. That's good. You're good? Good? Okay. I'll worry about this kind of deal. Hope you understand what I'm trying to say. So, and I'm sure there's probably people out there saying that once you get to this point, you don't have to worry about this. And that's what I want to get to, is where hopefully the ego, the mind doesn't suffer, or at least doesn't suffer as much. Because that's always my thing. Let's go and get started. Who I said a lot.
Good morning, Swamiji. The first one is from Shantanu Singh from India. Swamiji, what is the nature of sorrow? Is it the masking of our true nature by the mind, a thought or set of thoughts? Is it simply the absence of bliss?
That's a cheerful start. What is the nature of sorrow? But yes, this is the question which inspired the Buddha. He set off on his quest to find a solution to the problem of sorrow. Not for himself. He was a prince, he was having a party. But he recognized the universal nature of sorrow, that everybody suffers. And he too will one day suffer. So, what is the solution? Is there a solution, deep solution to the problem of suffering, unhappiness, lack of fulfillment, sorrow? Dukkha. Somebody told me, don't keep saying that there is suffering or sorrow, especially in today's world. In most cases, people living, especially in the first world, you might not have intense sorrow most of the time. But what is true is that we are dissatisfied. So, meaning of the word dukkha.
Real quick, some of those people think they're suffering.
Sanskrit word dukkha is often translated as sorrow or unhappiness. This also can be that things are out of place.
And mind you, there are genuine people who suffer, but most of the people that are complaining, that you see complaining, aren't actually suffering. But because their life is so good, they think they're suffering.
That things don't fit together. Our life is not whole. That much dissatisfaction and existential angst. So can there be an answer, a deep answer, which will solve all this? And the answer which the Buddha found, and not just the Buddha, all religions say this. All religions, without exception. They all claim that there is a deep answer to the problem of sorrow. The way they put it, the language they put it in, the theologies, they are different. But yes, so this is the common claim, that there is an answer to this question of sorrow, of suffering, of unhappiness.
I mean, yeah, I guess that would make sense considering the fact that, everyone suffers in this life. Well, majority of people suffer. Overwhelming majority of people suffers, except for the enlightened ones. And, if you want people to follow your religion, you got to find a solution to that problem. And promising them eternal bliss or, eternal happiness or eternal salvation or eternal whatever eternal goodness there is, they're going to be willing to join if they can get out of this eternal suffering. And how you keep them there is by eternal suffering. Hell. Or just some whatever place it happens to be that where, well, if you don't follow this, then you're going to be eternally in pain and suffering and sorrow for all of eternity. And that's a very long time.
Vedanta also. It says the goal of Vedanta, what are we trying to achieve here? Traditionally, the way it is put is, samsara is, the nature of samsara is sorrow, and samsara is the cycle of birth and death, and then we have to free ourselves from this prison. It's a prison, cycle of birth and death. Or a simpler way of putting it, without loading it metaphysically with karma and reincarnation, can put it in more simply, more directly, is that there is sorrow, and there is a deep solution to the problem of sorrow. Complete cessation of sorrow and attainment of lasting, deep fulfillment. That's the goal of Vedanta. Atyantika dukkha nivritti paramananda prapti. All right. The question is, what is the nature of sorrow? And
okay, real quick before I answer that. So, again, with what I last just said, obviously there are many ways to end suffering or sorrow or suffering in life. Religions, some certain Western religions can do that. There are people out there who have found their happiness in any religion. And there are people that found their happiness even without religion. But it doesn't always work the same for everyone. That's kind of the problem. And the thing I just don't like, again, about a lot of the Western religion, now I don't know if it's still, I don't know how true, not how true, but I've never heard, like Western religion says that if you leave this religion, you're going to hell, but I wouldn't doubt that to be true. But anyways, the thing I don't like is the fact that they don't allow you to switch religions in a sense. Because, what if that religion doesn't work for you? And this is the reason why I like Hinduism a lot. Because there is many paths. There are many correct paths, and some of those paths is worshiping a deity. Many of those paths is through action, through knowledge, through meditation. Um, action, worship, knowledge, and meditation. And there's a couple of more paths. I'm sure. I wouldn't doubt there's many more paths, but those are the four that I know that I wish to follow. So that's the one thing I like about Hinduism is the sheer fact that even then, if you wish to worship the Christian God or whatever God you wish to worship in Hinduism, it's actually yes, do so, be good at it. It's like, hold up, you're encouraging that, and that's the thing that I like. It's again because it recognizes the religions in the world as different paths. The sad truth of the matter is that many of these religions don't see the others as true paths, and that their path is the only right path.
One beautiful analysis I found, and again, this is something that I'm just delivering to you in English, but I have read of it or heard of it in Hindi from monks. So, an analysis of sorrow in 3 dimensions: Karana Drishti, Vastu Drishti, Sadhana Drishti. Perspective of cause. One way of understanding sorrow is what is it that causes sorrow? The second way of understanding sorrow is, the second perspective we take is, what is sorrow? This is the exact question. What exactly is it? What's it made of? What constitutes it? And third is, from the perspective of spiritual practice, what do we do about it? What does spirituality, different paths of spirituality, what do they say about it? So three dimensions I'm going to analyze, and this particular analysis, I mean, like entirely in toto borrowing it from some writings which I had read from monks. First of all, the cause of sorrow. And this is very traditional in many schools of Hinduism, Buddhism also, Jainism also. The first is the cause of sorrow. What causes sorrow? And this we will analyze at 3 levels, each deeper than the earlier one. The first, preliminary, which you come across the moment you take up any of the ancient texts. Sorrow is caused by 3-fold factors, or 3 kinds of sorrow are there, caused by 3 factors. So, the Adidaivika, Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika. Natural causes. Sorrow is caused by nature, by cold or heat or earthquake. We had earthquakes. Somebody was telling me just yesterday that gentleman, his son was in Taiwan when the big earthquake hit. And he was talking about the devastating earthquake. And the gentleman who lives here in New York, he said, "Oh, we had an earthquake too." What earthquake? His son said. And when he described it, he said, "Oh, that's a baby earthquake. That's not." But that's natural sorrow. Sorrow caused by nature, by the forces of nature. That is called Adi Daivika. Then Adi Bhautika. Sorrow caused by other living beings. The traditional text will talk about snakes and tigers. We don't have too many snakes and tigers here, but anything from mosquitoes to the pesky neighbor to your boss, other living beings, human and other living beings around you who
Trees, it's living.
cause us sorrow, a big source of sorrow. And the third one is Adhyatmika, which this body-mind system. Physical illness, very big source of sorrow. And mental suffering, even greater source of sorrow. So all of these, they all are causes of sorrow, 3-fold cause of sorrow. And by the way, that's why we say Shanti, peace, 3 times. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace 3 times for praying for the cessation of these 3 kinds of sorrow. It's sort of traditional, stylistic way for praying for the end of sorrow, these three causes of sorrow. Just by the way, I remembered this little kid. Kids are so mischievous. One kid in the ashram in a school many, many years ago, when mobile phones had just come into vogue. So he was saying, "Swami, why do you all say Shanti 3 times? So I said, there are 3 causes of sorrow and, blah, blah, blah. And that's why we say Shanti 3 times. And then he said, you need to add a 4th Shanti. What's the 4th Shanti? Mobile Shanti. To silence the mobiles. So that's the first look at the cause of sorrow. The second deeper analysis of the cause of sorrow is dukkhakara vritti, the movement in the mind, the thought in the mind of the nature of sorrow, the content of sorrow. What does that mean? It means, notice that all kinds of sorrow, whatever the sorrow is, natural, physical, other persons, whatever the sorrow is, it ultimately has to come in my mind as this kind of a thought that it's bad, it's awful, ain't it so bad? Ouch. So there has to be in the mind a movement, a feeling, a thought in the mind that it's bad. It makes me unhappy. This is miserable. This is awful. Then only it becomes sorrow. So any kind of sorrow, it first has to come into the mind, then only it affects me as sorrow. Do you get it? So dukkhakara vritti, that's the cause of sorrow. The mind must take the form, it's so awful. That's why sometimes you see in the lives of saints, they might have a very hard life, but they don't seem to be unhappy. In the minds of ordinary folk, having a very nice life, and endlessly unhappy, endlessly things to complain about. Why? It's not really what's outside. It's here in the mind. There's this film about the great mathematician John Nash, Beautiful Mind, which depicts the sufferings caused by schizophrenia. So he's in a frenzy. He has so many problems. The government is spying on him, and things are going with all sorts of problems. Almost all of it, which was hallucination. Nothing outside. But is he suffering or not? Oh yes, very much. Why? Because it's being presented by the mind. And that's suffering. That's suffering. So ultimately, and not just him, all of us, when we say we are suffering, it comes from the mind. And the third
Real quick. And this is the thing that I've come to realize is, well, it's not necessarily the fact that it's suffering from the mind per se, but it's the understanding of the situation, of why you suffer. For example, if I can think of an example, say, man, I can't think. Anyways, let me just come up with one. Hopefully it works. So, anyways, you lend someone some money. You need money, but you kind of see that your friend here needed money too, and you want to help them out. Say you gave him a large sum of money because you trust this friend, and this is probably a terrible example, but anyways, they come back and say they can't pay you back. And it's in a lot of sense you need that money back too, and they made a promise to give it back to you within a certain time frame, and they never did. You're going to suffer there too. But but you've come to the understanding that maybe because of hard times, you still trust this friend, but the things that he said was true. It's like, we all come at hard times. I appreciate you helping me, but the job that turned out, or whatever the reason is he gave you, and then you believe in him, and he's like, well, what he says is true, and there's nothing that can really be done. When you understand the situation, you don't tend to suffer from it very much. This is how I do with suffering. Instead of understanding it comes from the mind, but maybe this is the mind saying that it understands the reasoning behind it. So this is how I negate a lot of suffering, is by understanding it. When you understand something, that doesn't mean that all suffering you just have to understand and you don't suffer from it. Not at all. But I do believe, at least in my part, majority of the suffering, if you just understand it, you will not suffer from it. Not all of it, but probably the majority of it.
It comes from the mind. And the third level of the analysis of the causality of sorrow, even deeper analysis. Let there be external causes. Let even the mind take the form. This is awful. But the third level is abhimana, that owning up that I am in suffering. I am suffering. I am miserable. See, a flash can come in the mind that is awful. But if I say I am the witness of that, this is Vedanta, If I say I am the experiencer of this movement in the mind says it's awful, and I witness it. Am I in sorrow, or am I the witness of a potentially sorrowful situation? I'm the witness. I was there before that thought came. It's so bad. Ain't it so bad? That thought. I was there before that thought. I'll be there exactly the same after that thought diminishes and fades away. And I am there right now as the witness of that thought. This is a subtle point, but this is from Vedanta, the Vedantic insight. Here it is. You can put it this way. What's the nature of unhappiness? I am experiencing unhappiness. So a Vedantic teacher will ask you, when you say, I am unhappy, will ask you, are you experiencing unhappiness? Yes, I am experiencing unhappiness. In that case, Vedanta will tell you, you are not unhappy. We say, I am experiencing sorrow, therefore I am sorrowful. This seems natural to us. Vedanta draws a knife and analyzes, it separates the two. I am experiencing a miserable situation. That's one. Nobody can deny that. But I am miserable, it does not follow actually.
Yeah, I guess it's the saying, like, I am experiencing this, but I am not this. I am not miserable, but I'm experiencing is kind of the weird way to say it, I guess, but you see the experience of misery, but you're not misery itself. So you're observing the experience of misery.
I, the witness consciousness, am illumining this particular thing in the mind. How does that make me, the awareness, miserable? Say, pain in the body, sharp pain. I am experiencing it. I am the awareness experiencing pain. How am I in pain? Some of you look mystified, but think about it. This is the interesting thing. What people say, the chutzpah of Vedanta. We say, I feel pain. I can experience pain, so I am in pain. I experience unhappiness, so I am unhappy. No, if you are the experiencer of unhappiness, then you are the witness of it. You are not unhappy. You are consciousness. It's like, I experience a table. Am I a table? Of course not. Then I experience the body. I can see, smell, taste, touch the body. Am I a body? You would say, but yeah, you are. No. Just like the table is an object, the body is also an object. Then the question will be, but no, that's not true. If I punch the table, nothing happens to me. If somebody hits the table, nothing happens to me. But if somebody hits me, I get hurt. I feel it. It's not, the body and the table are not the same. From me, even from my perspective as the experiencing consciousness, the body and the table are not the same. They are the same. You say you feel pain when somebody punches the body? Yes. Is the pain an object or not? The pain also is an object. I remember once I was talking about this in Fargo, in the university there, and this young boy in the audience, he pinched himself sharply. And somebody asked, what are you doing? I'm testing what the Swami said. I'm watching the pain as an object. And it's true, the pain also is an object. If you try, don't pinch too sharply. But pain is also an object. So these three levels of causality of sorrow, natural causes from other living beings, and from one's own body-mind, three causes of sorrow. This is what causes sorrow. Second analysis, no, it is a deeper analysis, is just the movement of the mind. There might be somebody being nasty to you, saying, cursing you, abusing you. And if you don't know the language, well, nothing. You'll smile and nod. Why? Because the mental modification, vritti, dukkhakara vritti, the mental modification in the form of sorrow did not arise. So mental modification in the form of sorrow. That's the second analysis of causality of sorrow. Third analysis of causality of sorrow is owning that mental modification. Are you one with that mental modification, or are you a witness of that? The fact is, all mental modifications, we are awareness. We are the witness of all the arisings and disappearings of the mind. So don't own it. I always quote none other than Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, no one can make you unhappy without your permission. No one can make us unhappy without our permission. First, we have to permit. Permitting is allowing the mind to take the form of unhappiness. Ain't it so bad? That thought in the mind. Or even deeper, ain't it so bad? Yes, I am in this bad situation, or I am miserable, I am unhappy. No, you are the awareness of this potentially unhappy situation. So this is the causality of sorrow. Second, what is sorrow? Vastu drishti. What's it made of? So there, the answer, I'll make it brief. The answer is, I love this analysis, that's why I'm going to keep going on and on. The answer is 3 levels of understanding. One is, sorrow is prakriti parinama. A deeper understanding is sorrow is brahma vivatta. I'll explain. And third one is, sorrow is none other than Brahman, Brahma Swarupa. What does it mean? Sorrow is a transformation of nature, prakriti parinama. Sattva, rajas, tamas, 3 qualities of prakriti are there. Our minds and bodies are also made of that. And one of the effects of rajas, of dynamism, is sorrow or pain. So it's a movement in prakriti. Basically what it means in plain English is that it's a natural movement. Nature is continuously changing, our bodies are continuously changing, and so are our minds. And some of these changes have the potential to give pleasure to us, some have the potential to give pain to us. Even that pleasure or pain are products entirely within nature, and you are the witness of nature. So it's a modification in nature, not in you. That's one. What is sorrow? It's a modification of nature, especially rajas. A deeper understanding. It's an appearance of Brahman. This is the Maya answer. Brahman appears in all these forms, including sorrowful experiences. Brahman alone, existence, consciousness, bliss, you the limitless being, you are appearing in this form. Like a good example to understand this is, it's like a dream. So in a dream, many awful things can happen. Awful things can happen in a dream, nightmares. But when we wake up, what do we say? Oh, it was just a dream. Thank God it was just a dream. Oh, thank God it didn't happen, it's not real. Now we experienced it. Notice the fun. We have experienced it, the awful things which happened in the dream, and yet we can dismiss our own experiences because we have noted the falsity, the dream nature of those experiences. What is dream nature? Dream nature is just that it appeared but it didn't exist. It was all in my mind. It really didn't happen. But Vedanta just takes one step forward. Even in the waking state, everything in this waking state, everything that's going on in our lives is our appearances in consciousness. None of it is outside us. You might say, what are you saying? You have to listen to a lot of Vedanta for that. It's a very dramatic way of changing, complete, like a Copernican revolution in our way of thinking. It's not an external, things are there external. It's actually, everything is appearing, arisings in consciousness, which you are. So it's an appearance of Brahman. Sorrow, physical, mental, whatever it is, it's an appearance. It's not real. What is real, Brahman? What's that? You. You are the reality. You are appearing to yourself as your own sorrow. Then the even deeper, what is it actually? What is sorrow? The third and final analysis, very difficult to swallow there, is that it is Brahman itself. Call it God itself, Brahman itself, in the language of a devotee, of the monk. Swami Vivekananda would quote this story often. There was a cobra which came and bit this saint, and when he recovered, they asked him what happened. He said it was a messenger from the beloved. You would call God the beloved. A messenger from the beloved, the snake. That's a devotional way of putting it. The jnana, the Vedantic way of putting it would be Brahman itself. This is Brahman itself. This entire universe is Brahman itself. A distinction which Sri Ramakrishna made between jnana and vijnana. Jnana is knowledge that I am Brahman. The world is an appearance. So that's the second level of what is sorrow. Sorrow is an appearance. And Brahman is the reality. The dream paradigm. Even higher is the Vijnana. The Vijnana which Sri Ramakrishna used, the term Vijnana again and again. It means, don't even use the language of dream and appearance. It's Brahman itself. Sorrow is Brahman itself. Sorrow is God itself. In the sense that everything is God. In the sense that sorrow is not sorrow, it is God. It's not that God has become sorrow for us. No. God has not become anything except God. It is God. It is Brahman, or it is you. Then the third level of understanding, the third aspect of it is sadhan drishti. I'll just mention it and stop. What do we do from a practice perspective, spiritual practice? How do we deal with sorrow? The devotee deals with sorrow as this is the grace of God. It brings me closer to God. Kunti's prayer to Krishna. So I don't even pray for moksha, liberation from birth and death. Let me be born again and again. Let me suffer. But at least let that suffering always bring me to you. So, the bhakta, the devotee says, it's the grace of God. The karma yogi will say, this is my bad karma. It's being exhausted by this. It's my own creation. It's fine. Good. All my bad karma is exhausted. Happiness is not so good because all my good karma is being spent there.
Gyan and Raja.
The Raja Yogi, the yogi, will shut down the movements of the senses and the mind. The moment you shut down the movement of the senses of the mind, then the sorrow will disappear. The sorrow cannot exist without the cooperation of the body, the senses, and the mind. The yogi merges in meditation. It's like being anesthesia. You don't feel it anymore. And the jnani says, from the jnani's perspective of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta, they say sorrow is pragya aparadha, an offense against wisdom, against the knowledge that you are Brahman. If you say, I have understood that I am Brahman, I have got it that I am Brahman, if you say that, then you have no right to say, ain't it so bad? If you claim to be enlightened or nearly enlightened and almost there, in that case, one thing you lose immediately is the right to grumble. No more sorrow, no more complaining about sorrow. It's an offense against enlightenment. How can you say at the same time that I am Brahman and things are awful for me? You cannot. Okay.
Okay, that was kind of funny. So if you're a Jnana Yoga, you have the right to complain. Oh no, that's the path I want to take. Oh gosh. I have failed myself. Anyways, that's actually interesting. I kind of understood, obviously. I want to say I hate, but let's see. The answer always goes down to God, in a sense. Now, God, whether it's be duality or God in the sense that you are God, and in terms of Advaita Vedanta, that or enlightenment, because obviously sorrow itself is, well, like you said towards the end, God or Brahman. It's in terms of karma yoga, it's all the bad karma gone bad. In terms of bhakti yoga, apparently it's a way to get closer to God. Raja just, painkillers. And Gyana just, what are you talking about? Pain? What? I have no idea what you're saying. What is pain? Discomfort? What? No. So anyways, is sorrow a problem of the mind in the absence of bliss? Well, yeah, it is a problem of the mind. That's where it comes in, that's where it arises, that's where it stays, that's where it happens. Kind of like the saying of Mrs. Roosevelt about no one can offend you, no one can make you unhappy, no one can do anything necessarily to you unless you allow it. And is it an absence of bliss? Of course, it's an absence of bliss, especially the Jnana Yoga, because if you complain, then you are not in bliss, sir. You are not enlightened. Anyways, that's my reaction to. I just popped something. Oh, that felt weird. I'm not complaining. That felt weird. That's all I'm saying. I really did pop something. Anyways, if you like my content, please consider subscribing. Thumbs up the sound down below. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next vid.